Let's go take a look at how we can create a database on a workspace. The workspace actually allows us to host a so-called MySQL database, which is one of several types of relational databases you can use to store your data. A lot of web hosting services actually use MySQL. It's a very popular database and it's available for free. To do that, what you need to do is on a workspace after you've logged on is go to Hosting Tools and pick MySQL databases. Now, I already have one set up here, but I'm going to show you how to create a new database. So if it doesn't come up, I have to scroll up a little bit. You don't really have to fill out anything here other than the database name. I created one called Bruins. Let's create another one called Players. You can create it, of course, yours under the name Bruins because that's what we're going to use in the example, but I'm going to show you how to do that. So click on Players, then put in some kind of a password. You're going to have to put in a password that meets their password criteria. So if you don't know what they are, click over here. It has to contain a lowercase letter, an uppercase letter, a digit, and a special character. It has to be between 8 and 32 symbols long, so nobody can guess it and somehow on the web break into your database. So, I'm going to use a database here. Going to call again for Boston Bruins. All right, I have to confirm it, of course. You might want to follow along with this and try the same thing. Everything else we're going to leave the way it is. So we just had to put in the name of the database and a password. I'm going to click on Create, and it's going to go out and create a database for us. It's actually very quick. And then to actually do something with a database, all you have to do is click on the database name right here, and then click on Management. Or alternatively, just click over here on the PHP MyAdmin 3, which is the management tool we use. Here you go. And I'm going to open it with my PHP MyAdmin 3, or like I said, we could have just clicked over here to get to the admin tools. Now, in the admin tools, what you basically can do is administer databases, add new users, change passwords, create tables, add data to the tables. Let's just try that out. Let's create a single table. I'm going to call it, for the sake of example, I'm going to call that table players, because we're going to store player information in there. And then you can create columns. Columns are the attributes or the information that you're going to store about each player. So the assumption is the player is going to have rows, and each row is going to be a player. I think of it almost like a spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet, where each row is a record, in this case about one particular player, and every column is a column indicating an attribute or a property about a player. So we're going to put in the player name, so you can use P underbar name. P stands for player in this case. You're going to have to make it a variable character field, and you got to give it a maximum length. So we're going to use 256. It should be more than enough to store a player's name. Most players, of course, are never going to have a name that's that big. I'm going to put in P position, or POS abbreviated. Again, I'm going to make it a varchar. I'll maybe just make it 128 is probably going to be enough. And that should really be it. There's a few other things you can do here. You can check to see if it's allowed to be null or not null and so on. But let's not worry about that. And then when we're done with this, we can save it. Or if you want to add more columns, you can click on the number of columns you want to add plus go. So I'm just going to save this table here. And we got it. So there's the table now, players. If I click on that table now over here, I actually get to the editing part of that table, and I can go ahead and review the structure of the table, and I can insert new rows. Let's go try that out. So we're going to add, and you're going to do that over here, a new value for player. Let's put one in here. Well, it doesn't play for the Bruins anymore, but Sean Thornton as a player. In position, he was a forward when he played for the Bruins. So there you go. You can put another one if you want to. Let's put in Patrice Bergeron. And again, he's also a forward. And of course, you can think of many others, I'm sure. If you want to add more new rows, you can do that here, or you can just be happy with those two. Click on Go. It's going to show you what the SQL statement looks like it's going to execute. It's not really of any concern to us. Just don't screw around with it. Don't mess around with it. Just, when you're done, just click on Go. Let it execute. It's going to be there. Now, how do you know it's actually there? Well, if you click on Browse, it's going to show up right here. All right. Actually, I don't know why it sometimes ends up with two of them. I probably ended up running it multiple times. So I gotta delete the duplicates here. So let me delete this one here, and let me delete this one here. All right, so I got now the two in here. By the way, if you want to modify anything, you can edit. If you misspelled something, you can do that here. And then if you want to modify the table, of course, you can do the same thing. You can go to the table structure, and you can modify anything about that. You can also add new columns to it. Just say add one column at the end of the table and click on go. We can add something like p image, which could be maybe a varchar again. It's going to be maybe a URL to the image, an online image for the player. So let's go click save here on this. And I thought it did this all correctly, but I guess, because I didn't put in a length, 256 would be good. Let's save that. Good, it worked. So now I have that in there. Of course, I can. Now, if you go back to browse, you'll notice that none of them have an image in here, so you can edit. And I'll put in the URL to the image, maybe this one right here. All right, so that's how you would do that. And of course, you would click go to save it. And now we have an image in here. So that's basically how you deal with your database. Again, the key is that your database, and again, going back to the beginning part here, if you click on databases, there are some key parts right here that you want to take a look at. Just see again what this all looks like. All right. So that shows you how to set up a new database in PHP MyAdmin. And how to set up a database. A couple of the things you got to remember is you got to remember username, you got to remember the database name. So those are the key things you got to remember. The only other thing I wanted to show you is let's go back to the previous tab that showed you all the databases. A couple of key things you got to remember. The name of the database is an entire string. You need that for connecting to it from PHP. That's a username, that entire string. This is the host, that's the computer on which the database is running, and that's the port number. That's the kind of like the mailbox you use to connect to it. So those are four very important parts you got to remember, and then the password you set. So you got to remember that as well. So those are the four parts: database name, username, host name, port number, and the password you set. By the way, if you don't remember the password, you can set it in the PHP My 3 tools. You can change your password.